Good morning, Teresa. Good morning, Michelle. How's everybody doing? Is it summer break for everybody? I know it is for us, but Allie's kids are just getting out this week, she said. So it's crazy the difference everywhere.
Okay, we are live, so
Awesome. Yeah, ours been out for like a month now. So it was crazy whenever they were saying, oh, they're just getting out, but everything's so different. Awesome.
maybe that's a good thing because maybe not all the vacation places are packed at the same time.
Oh,
But
yeah, I can tell you, like, because we got out so early when we went to Disney or whatever, like it wasn't, you would have thought it was like because it was summer and it was like the week or a couple days, the weekend of whatever holiday it was, Memorial Day. I couldn't even think that it was gonna be like extremely packed, and it wasn't. So that was nice for us. So yeah, I'm sure that is very, it helps those places tons.
yeah, I'm sure. Well, today we are talking SOPs. So SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedures. They're a little different than policies and procedures. We're kind of grouping them both together today, though. So if you have questions as we go, feel free. But let us know real quick. How long have you been doing bookkeeping? Do you have any policies, procedures, standard operating procedures in place? Any workflows in place for your bookkeeping business? I know Megan and I were just chatting that when we started, I fully remember like printing off an engagement letter, signing it myself, scanning it to my first client and having them sign it. I just randomly had someone come to me, can you do this? And I was just flying by the seat of my pants. And I had the only thing I had to go on was sending engagement letters for CPA firms. So I did have that background where I drafted them, I created them, and I sent them to clients. But I was very limited in the software and tools that I had in order to do that. Like I didn't have DocuSign or Adobe Sign or anything like that, and he needed to get started right away. So there was no time to really research. Um, Congrats on 25 tomorrow. Teresa says no SOPs yet. I need to get on this. I have 3 clients and will be hiring in the near future. Tom says he's currently setting those up. Absolutely. Michelle. Absolutely. Well, and Michelle says she's been doing bookkeeping for 25 years. I do have some SOPs and a standard tech stack, but will bend if the client needs it. Absolutely. That's where standard operating procedures becomes your procedures for that client. And you can, it's like a step down to like, okay, here's how we do it as a firm, but there's this caveat for the client. Absolutely. We're seeing, haven't gotten the nerve to get clients yet. Who else is in that boat? We have got a special guest for you next week. If you are in that boat, Megan
Yes,
is like so excited about this.
I am. I'm super excited.
So if you're in that boat and you're like, there is something holding you back from getting a client, you're scared to go get them, you're scared about getting your next client, or you've got something else going on that is really holding you back from like fully stepping into this and enjoying this business, especially if you're not enjoying this business, there might be something else going on. Next week's, do you want to announce the podcast guest for next week?
Yes, definitely. So next week, if y'all talk to me at all, or if you're in our paid group, we're fixing to start a book club over there, doing a book. And if you hear me talk ever, like one of my favorite books is Fear is Not the Boss of You. So the author of Fear of Not Fear is Not the Boss of You is Jennifer Allwood. She is actually going to be a guest on our podcast next week. So super excited because she's a Christian business coach. So if you've read the book, if you've listened to it, or you've heard anything from her, Michelle says she loves it. Yes, one of my favorites. Oh, look at you. Look at Tom. Tom's got it too. Yes, love it. Well, she's going to be on here next week. So bring y'all's questions, any concerns. She's going to be talking about fear and everything. There are so many things, if you've read the book, that it's fear driven, procrastination, not getting the clients, not doing the marketing, like doing all these things. And like I know for sure did not realize some of those things were driven by fear. But when you start reading the book and she goes into all of her details and stuff on it, like it's really eye-opening and like a total game changer. So definitely I'm super excited about next week.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun, and she is just a gem of an author. And even if you like whatever you think of the book, it's always nice to hear from their perspective, like what they really intended to say,
Definitely.
and how they've grown since they've written the book. And she
Yep.
is just such a gift of a person. So
Teresa said, I've been scared to network and went to my first one. Love this book. It helped me to go out networking and not let fearing get in the way. I love to hear that. That's exciting.
And Megan, when did you read this book in your journey?
A couple of years in. So I mean, it wasn't like the very beginning of my journey when I came across it. But I can even say like at that point, it was still an eye opener for me to realize a lot of the things. And like still to this day, like I've listened to this book um probably 10 times. And every time I do, I'm like, oh, that's fear. So it's like a lot of times when we think like, oh, I've gotten over all the fears, like I'm 5 years in my business, like, nah, that's not fear anymore. No, sometimes it is, and you just don't realize it. So Fear is Not the Boss of You is the name of it. Let me grab the link.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still on sale, but last week it was on sale on Amazon, like 60% off. So like definitely jump on it. And y'all, if you're for the ones that are in our paid group that are on here, Monday we're starting a book club with it. So we're going to do book club discussion and everything on Monday, starting on Monday. So make sure y'all join that.
And if you want to be a part of that, we can still get you in. So just let us know, send us a message.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if like we've got a couple of options for you. So if you know that you really want to be a part of that book club and in even future book clubs, but if you want to be a part of that one, just send us a message and we'll make sure you get in for that. Cool. All right, so Megan's gonna drop that link. Guys, and just as she's dropping that, fear comes up in the stinkiest ways. It doesn't always feel like fear. I think fear disguises itself in procrastination. It disguises itself in what we're going to talk about today. And it feels like we're being productive in getting and establishing our SOPs. And I absolutely think there's a great reason to have SOPs and operating procedures and a plan of action. Just how are you going to operate this business that you've got going on? But we often see this concept of I need a plan taken to the extreme, and it's disguised as productivity, but it's actually something that's holding us back. And we see this with bookkeepers every month. So if this is you, if we start to describe you today, know that you're not alone. And there is help. Like, and I'm not like therapy help, but like there is help for your business. There's help to get you what you need so you can move forward. Guys, even though my first engagement letter was a bit wonky and a little funky, I still have that client to this day. He's now in my pretty onboarding system, and he went through all of that later. So absolutely no big deal. He didn't sweat it at all. He just needed someone to do his books. And he's still with me now for, I mean, I've done 5-6 years of of his bookkeeping. So I'm not tax return, but, so just put that in perspective. Like if you're looking for money now, and guys, as a stay-at-home mom at that point in time, I think he was paying me hourly because I didn't have pricing really established. And I just threw it out there. I was like, $55 an hour. Again, I wasn't in any groups. I had no education on this. I had no guess. It was just a pure guess. So I was like, I think it's this based on what I'm seeing, based on my experience and my skill set that I'm bringing to the table. And I just threw out a number. He said, yes, guys, as a stay-at-home mom working 10, 20 hours a month on his cleanup, it felt like less than that, but I think there was a month where it was like in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I like did this cleanup for him. $3,000 came in the door from that cleanup. Like, that is pretty cool. And now it wasn't used for Christmas. It could have been, but like that was, my kids were super young. They didn't need $3,000 in Christmas gifts. So it went to get more clients and things like that. But just to be able to do that as a stay-at-home mom who, I mean, that's beyond hobby to actually making a difference, right? To actually bringing in substantial income versus like starting the Etsy store and spending a lot of time trying to figure that out. Like this is a way to offer a service, bring money in the door. So Megan and I, we thought this was important enough to actually have notes. So we have notes today just because this really does come up so often. And we really want to be an encouragement to you guys and help you move forward if this is you. So one of the first reasons we see SOPs get in the way is we start to overemphasize the internal processes. Okay. So we can become so internally focused on creating SOPs and maintaining SOPs that we lose sight of the client's needs, right? It doesn't fit this pretty organization manner. They messaged us on Facebook and we only want to be messaged in our portal. But we don't understand that, like, what if the client is at the hospital and they just can't access the portal because they're on their phone, but they need to get you information? Like, I'll take the Facebook message. I don't want my clients Facebook messaging me. Does it happen on a rare occasion? Yeah, it does. But I get to choose my attitude towards that. And if the client rarely messages you, it just happened to be the quickest way to get you that information that you needed to move forward, let's give them the grace and move on. And maybe you respond back to them in the portal, right? To reinforce that, but we get to control our responses and our attitudes to how our internal policies are carried out. I know for me, I'm really big on my Google Drive, or like just my Drive being organized and updated. And if I'm reviewing something, I want to be able to go to the Drive and I expect the document to be there organized so I can find it. But I don't have to be a jerk to my team if they didn't get it there. It's a simple email. Oh, hey, I didn't see this. I went ahead and reviewed it. Can you drop this in there? And setting an expectation that that's what I expect, and then just reinforcing it gently actually ensures I've got team members who do it without me asking, and it's rare that I can't find something. So we can lead as leaders of our businesses. We can lead with expectations. I think back to when I worked at a CPA. So I worked at two different CPA firms. One of them was smaller, which meant I got to touch everything. I got to touch everything and work directly with the CPAs. And actually in the other firm, I worked directly with the CPAs, but I also worked with managers. In the smaller firm, I got to talk to the clients more, and I got to work directly with the CPAs. Still did engagement letters, still did all the organization, all of those things. And I remember in that firm talking to the admin who actually sent out the engagement letters. So that's normal in CPA firms. So the admin assistant will actually help finalize stuff, for formatting and stuff like that. And she hated it if the lead CPA touched a client because nothing was documented, nothing was organized. And because he expected us to do it. But every now and again, because he knew his job better than all of us learning his job, he would get in late at night and do stuff. And when we would go back and look at it, it wasn't documented well, according to standards, or the admin was having to hunt and peck for things to get it organized and caught up. So as the owner of your business, you have leeway, right? But we do want a team who can execute. And as you get busier, you'll find it's actually harder as the owner to execute some things that you thought when you started your business you would always be able to execute. And that is the benefit of hiring a team and having those things in place. But we can control our attitudes around the internal processes, and we can choose, depending on your business values, client over processes. Okay. I know in my business, I choose the client over processes. Not to like fraud. I don't choose, like I'm still going to protect our team. So if in the case, like for me, I don't, we get accountant read-only access. Guys, did you know though, if you're a sole prop without an EIN, some banks won't give you a business bank. So they might have had a bank set them up with a personal account that's strictly their personal. You're not going to be able to get read-only access to it. It might be a lot harder. So in that case, I know that there are some banks that will do a sole prop with their social security and give them a business bank account. But often that's credit unions, and they have to go in and talk to a real human being to do that. Okay. So we can work with them on that. But they might just be sending us statements, and I'm going to ask for very specific things. So I'm going to choose client over the process without sacrificing the process as a whole, right? Not slowing down the team, not slowing down my team. I definitely want, my job is to support the client, support my team to get the best product out. And guys, sometimes the team is me, but I'm going to always act like it's the team. And especially when I started to transition out of that employee to business owner, act like you're the team, act like you have a team behind you, and it will help you think about processes better. Now I've been in this long enough to build a team, which is really, really nice. And guys, that's just a blessing. But there are times where like we're in between projects or something, and I'll get like a small cleanup, and it doesn't make sense for me to tax my team on the cleanup. It makes sense to just go ahead and get it done. But they're getting to a point where they're like, oh, I want the fun cleanup. Please give me the fun cleanup. And I had a team member really excited this week. She was like, oh, this is going to be a fun cleanup. And I'm like, don't neglect the hard stuff over this, but have fun. Because there was one of those cleanups as you go that you're going to find stuff that you enjoy doing as a bookkeeper. Great, pitch in. But feel free to give it away too. So now she's getting to have fun, but I was like, oh, that would be really fun for myself to do. And so I'm glad that she's having fun with it. This leads into rigidity and versus adaptability, if I can speak. That's a big word. SOPs are meant to create consistency and efficiency, but they can also make a business rigid. Right. So that's where kind of when I mentioned the client was having an emergency, they sent you in a Facebook message. Guys, I had an issue last week or 2 weeks ago, Megan, you remember, where I like couldn't access anything because my phone was having some big issue.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not seeing stuff. I can't access stuff. I physically missed a team meeting because I couldn't get the code to access my email to get the Google link. Got to tell you that link is now moved so that I don't ever have that issue again. But I couldn't even tell the team, I can't message you. I did. I was able to get into the portal and say like, hey team, I cannot get into this link. If you can send it to me in the next 5 minutes, I will totally be on. If not, I'm going to miss you, and we'll just put it here so that we have it in the future so this doesn't happen again. I'm hoping my phone is fixed now. My husband's a phone repair guy, so I think we got it. But it was out of my control. Like, so we can adapt, and we just continue messaging and solved the, checked in and did everything we needed to do. So I always try to put myself in the client's shoes. Why did they send the Facebook message? Why didn't they go to the portal? And that helps us understand the limitations of our tech stack. And if you don't know the limitations of your tech stack or what they will be as you start to build your tech stack out, create yourself an account, make yourself a client, and go through the client process. Even if you're the one doing your own bookkeeping, send your firm through the process and do your own bookkeeping as if you were following the processes and procedures. And I can tell you that has given me insight to so many issues that I didn't know were issues. And I've been able to make improvements that have made my clients happier and easier to work with. Like they didn't know. I went through it. I'm like, oh, that does not work for me. Like, and
Right.
like they're busy too. Megan, have you done anything like that? Like where you just have seen the other side and you're like, oh,
Yeah, Keeper was one of those things for me. That like seeing the other side of it was like, okay, now I see why some of my clients weren't opening it. And some of it's probably changed because I haven't went through the process again recently, but like this is was when I mean, it's been a couple years now, probably, or a year at least. So it was kind of like when they send the questions, like for example, if you click on the link, like it would make you open it multiple times or whatever to be able to log in. Like it was just funky. Well, it made me realize, like, okay, this is why they're getting aggravated and they're just not doing it because they're getting annoyed that they're having to click multiple times. But then that's also something that you're able to bring the like Keeper for that instance. They're very open to making the processes smoother, so when you go through it, you're able to see those frustrations and whatnot. So yeah, definitely go through it and see.
yeah, we've talked about pillars too as part like I have pillars that are fundamental to how I operate my business, like integrity and equal weights and measures and communication. So like those are three of my like hardcore pillars. But communication, it goes both ways. So opening the door to let me know if this isn't working out for you. And you can in Keeper, you can also make an announcement. So if you ever want to check in with like clients across the board, you can say, hey, I'm going on vacation, or hey, I just want to make sure everyone got this email or whatever. And or you can just say, hey, we're welcoming feedback through, click this link to give us some feedback on our process with you. And sometimes just
Right.
doing so when I started my business, I had implemented like a 6-month just check-in call where I would just physically pick up the phone unannounced and call and say, hey, I just wanted to check in with you. And the reason it's unannounced is I want them to pick up thinking, but it's just if they're busy, they're not going to pick up the phone. But I think
Exactly.
that people are willing to talk to you on the phone just at a random moment. And my clients, I made it my mission when I was starting to find clients that respected me. So I'd gotten a $3,000 a month client. It was bad. He wasn't ready to pay $3,000 a month. He needed a lot of work for like $8 an hour. I couldn't do that. And so we parted ways, thankfully. If you haven't had that experience, I hope that you don't have that experience. Megan and I both have for sure, where people just want a lot and it costs more and they're not ready, and then they become agitated. More on the price than really the work that's being done, or stuff like that, or like just the acknowledgement of, well, I'm limited. I'm only doing this. This is my scope of work. That falls outside of it. But here's how I can make it fall inside. And so those are options. But after that client, I made it my mission to find clients who respected me in the role that I am as a service provider, not their employee, not just their contractor, not just their freelancer, but like as a service provider. This is my scope. This is what I'm doing for you. This is my realm. And then I'm going to refer out for anything else. And in doing so, that communication works better, and it works both ways. So, and then I can value that communication back to me. Time, resource, and drain of SOPs. So I think sometimes, especially if you're starting out and you want a team, so you're doing the team thing right away, and you're trying to get them to set up processes and procedures. Guys, who has gotten a tech stack at any point in time and just immediately gone to like a team member to set it up entirely? Has anyone done that? Some of you might be too new to have done that. If you have done that, sometimes they don't know what you want. But I encountered a process thing this week. I went to go review something for one of my team members, and she sent me an email. Hey, and she does it every week. For some reason this week, I just didn't have the information I needed to review it in the email. Like, she didn't change anything. I just had a different question this week that I hadn't had in the past. And so I went to her and I was like, or I just sent her an email back. This is approved. This is good. Next week, can we start doing something like this? And she immediately organized some files, got some links together, and said, what do you think of this? And I'm like, great. But at the same time that I said great, I'm like, ooh, is that just extra time? And so I had to have a conversation with her about, like, that's what I want, kind of, but I want to make sure, like, it's not going to be a resource, a time drain on you. Like, if that's under 3 minutes to do every week and it's done, the process is set up, great, let's implement it. But if it's going to add 10 minutes to this task, let's not do it. Does that make sense? So, like, SOPs, processes, procedures, sometimes we get too many of them. And can we kill two birds with one stone? Can we start to systematize so that it's not, well, this process now means 3 other processes happen? If that's the case, can we use Zapier to automate? Can we do something else to streamline the process? And so sometimes we overdo processes, procedures, standard operating procedures, and it's a drain on our team. That's something to think about. And you'll start to see that as you get busier, if it is. And that's where you can start saying, okay, point A, B, C, we can actually go from A to C using Zapier. So now B is cut out, and that saves your team an hour a month, right? That way, that's a whole client, potentially, an hour a month, plus your review or whatnot, that can be a client. So it's really important to kind of pay attention to that, especially if you're, depending on how you're paying contractors and things like that, paying your team, we do want to be mindful. Okay. I've got another thought there, but I'm going to keep going. Innovation and creativity. So when we start valuing SOPs over the relationship, over the system, over the task that we're doing, we start to kind of get stale, and we start to say, well, other bookkeepers are doing it this way, this way, this way, and we forget to innovate. So then all of a sudden we see an ad, we see a new bookkeeping business, and we're like, they're innovating. I wish I had thought about that. Oh, that's how they're solving this client problem. I wish I had thought about that. And so especially as the owner of the business, if you are so focused on the SOPs as you go, because you're working on the business under the guise of SOPs, you might not be innovating and actually problem solving. You might just be running a really well-oiled system. But is it the system or the solution? I think it's the solution that we're offering our clients. And that's where you as the owner get to do that, unless you are going to bring in a partner. Tom, I know we talked about that, or something like that, where their role is to innovate. You can do that. You can bring in someone, but often it's us that are talking, like the owner that's talking to the clients. They're doing the industry research. They're finding their fresh ideas, and they're saying, hey team, what if we did this? Like, are we seeing this with the clients? Yes, we are. How can we innovate that? And that's where, like, bench.co, they innovated. They created their own software. They're doing it differently. And they're not doing it well, but they're doing it. So and the funny thing is, sometimes in business, you don't have to be the best. You have to be the best at marketing. But if, integrity is one of my pillars. I want to give tax ready, good books. I never want someone to leave my firm and go to another bookkeeper, and all of a sudden there's, saving $45,000 because, like I just did for a client who came to me from really bad bookkeeping, and we're having to amend stuff. It takes a lot of time, and you start to see these bookkeepers who aren't acting in integrity because they're not asking questions and they're just doing. So make sure. Well, I just think that's a huge pillar for me. It might not be for you. I hope it is, but okay. Adaptation to market changes was one of our last ones that we our notes on this is SOPs can become so rigid. So it goes really, really close into a couple of the other points. Markets evolve, needs change, software changes. And we have seen that from, like, if you look at the evolution of your bookkeeping role, and I talk about this in the revenue infusion bundle. So if you haven't seen that, let us know. But there's like there's 3 courses in one bundle. Inside of that, I talk about the evolution of a bookkeeper. And the funny thing is bookkeepers used to be just kind of an admin role. So how many of you, let me know in the comments if you've ever just been treated like a glorified admin assistant or like virtual assistant. I know we've talked about that before. Like, are you a virtual assistant or are you more? But since the 1990s, where you had females, like, sorry, men that are on this call, it was a female role in the 1990s, where you went to work, you sat at a desk, and it was very secretarial. But in the 1990s, it started shifting to, as computers shifted, needing more and more accounting knowledge. So now you're more of an accountant. We can't really say that word, but like, you're doing more accounting than you are bookkeeping in our roles now. And that's going to continue to shift as AI comes up, like, continues to improve in the industry, and paying attention to that, being able to say, oh, well, yes, we have this standard operating procedure, but I can improve it because of this, and you can take out that rigidity. One of the coaches, Bonnie in the coaching group, she's one of our 12 coaches that answer questions, things like that. She is probably the best one that I see at adapting to market changes. She's on top of technology. That's like her part-time job, I'm pretty sure. If she's listening, I think it's her part-time job to study technology. And she's, if there's ever anything that changes in software technology in the bookkeeping space, she's heard of it. She's figured it out, and she knows how to use it. Or whether or not it's going to be good for her firm, she's probably already asked that question. So as you create your policies, your processes, your SOPs, be adaptable. Pay attention to market changes. Don't look up 20 years from now and say, oh, I'm still doing it on green ledgers in today's society, the equivalent of green ledgers, when we have really nice software to use. Teresa, I saw you said yes to admin, and you're going to get treated that way as you talk to clients. It is up to you if you want to continue to be treated that way. So you can show up professionally to the call. You can train yourself to show up professionally to the call. And this isn't just on you, like, this is for everyone. And you'll see that go down, because you're the expert in your field. And as you own that expert in your field process, and if any of you find that this is a problem, like, you're like, I am not an expert in my field, I cannot do this, the book club with Megan starting on Monday would be a great place to be. But I also saw Letty had a question that says, can you show us how you have your drive organized? So Letty, absolutely. I'm not going to do that on today's call. We actually have a 2-hour workshop. It's 2 hours, right, Megan?
Yeah.
Like a 2-hour. So it's a hands-on workshop to show you exactly how to go ahead and establish your workflows. So I have a training in the Bookkeeper Blueprint that we're going to base this off of. So if you want an insight to that program, feel free to join us to see that. But we're going to walk through your marketing. This is what you're doing. So you're going to post on Facebook XYZ times. You're going to expect DMs. You're going to do this. Then you're going to get on. Are you getting on a sales call? Are you filling out a questionnaire? What's the next step? So we're going to determine what that is for you. It's not going to look the same for everyone. From there, how do you onboard this client? What do you send them? What documents do you need? What are those checklists? So we're going to go ahead and give you some insight into our checklist and our workflows, but we're going to show you how to do it yourself too, in terms of what works for you. Not everyone uses the same software. Megan and I now use more of the same software than not, but I think a couple of years ago, we probably weren't maybe we're a little similar. So all of that, and hands-on opportunities. So it's not going to be like a teaching workshop. It's going to be teaching, getting into your workflow. So it's going to be work alongside me as I help you. So you can ask questions just like Letty asked, hey, can you show me this? Absolutely. And we've done this before. Last time we did it was marketing and workflows. And guys, that was 4 hours. And I think it went over. So we're going to do 2 hours for this because the feedback was wish list was just 2 hours. However, we had lots of questions on that call. So it was planned for 4 hours. This one, we're just going to plan for 2 hours and it's going to be hands-on with you. So if you want to do that, Allie has the link for us. It's going to be July 2nd. So we're not going to make you wait very long for it. So not next week, it's the following Tuesday. 2 p.m. Central. There will be a replay. So you'll see everything that we talked about. You'll get all the files that we share. If that makes sense. But hands-on, helping you, engagement letter. What does this look like to do? And it's going to be tailored to the people that are on the call. So if you have questions, definitely show up to the call. If you know that you need this, it's absolutely hands-on. We'll be prepared for questions. We'll be prepared in all of our stuff, but we know that all of you are different places, and I'll be there. And I'll have a buffer on my calendar if any of you need to stay on like 10 minutes longer to ask a final question. I'm not gonna close the Zoom at 2 hours, but it is 2 hours. But if you're in the middle of asking a question, I'm gonna make sure you get your question answered. So it's totally for you. Sorry. What other questions might you guys have with it?
So Letty, I'll also throw in, it is included in the program that you're in. So like there's no additional fee or anything for you. So we'll get
yeah, there should be a coupon
the codes. Yeah, the codes you need for that. So just FYI. But Allie did drop the link in the chat. So I'll drop that on all the Zoom I mean the Facebook lives and stuff as well.
That is $47. Someone just asked what it costs. So it is $47. Megan, I, and Allie, you're going to be on that call, right, too? I think Allie's going to be on that call too. So she also helps with Zapier if we are looking for automation. Some of the coaches might be on. We're going to invite them to be on, but it'll be me, Megan. So you'll get the whole crew for that call. Yeah, absolutely. So Letty, the code will go to the squad group. The chat group that you're in is probably where that will get posted. You might also get an email for it, but I would look in the squad group for that, and you can go ahead and get signed up today, and you'll start getting the emails. Get it on your calendars like that. But I'm really excited. I love the hands-on stuff. We did hands-on with the Upwork. We did hands-on with the marketing and workflows. But they're just really fun, and so much gets accomplished during those calls that it's like a super rewarding. Like, because sometimes workshops are very much the why. This is more of the how. And we love doing that just because if onboarding is keeping you from getting your first client, guys, I cannot tell you, Megan and I, both of our first like engagement letters onboarding were pretty wonky. It was, hey, I need someone to do bookkeeping. I found you. Can you please help me and take my money? So, and we served them irrespective of, I had no workflows. I had no checklist. I had nothing other than QuickBooks and actually I didn't even have QuickBooks Online. They were in desktop. So I didn't have the cute little checklist you guys have now in QuickBooks Online. I'm going to start sounding old. Like, oh, I had to walk 5 miles in the rain to the thing. Letty, yes, we should have did we record the other workshop, Megan? If
I'm pretty sure we did.
Trainings.
Yeah,
Letty,
everything was.
There is a possibility that it didn't get moved to the new platform, but it should be moved.
Digitally driven bookkeeping. Yes. Normally you can purchase like all of our stuff after the fact still. So if you want to catch the replay, if you have trouble finding the, like I would just save that link and you should be able, is that right, Sherry, Allie? Correct me if I'm wrong. That link should still work if she wants to purchase later.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So
So just save that link, and if you can't find it or whatever, just send us an email or a message or whatever and let us know and we'll get it to you when you're ready to purchase it.
yeah. And in the meantime, if you have questions, feel free to tag us in the Facebook group saying, hey, I would like to cover this. I would like to conquer this with your
Yeah.
procedures, and we'll make sure we come prepared to help you do that on the call. Last time we almost did breakout rooms. We might not have recorded the last 4 hours because we were going to do breakout rooms, and then everyone voted as soon as we got in to just
That they wanted to stay. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not sure if that got recorded. If it did, it's in the additional trainings. Letty, I'll look for you and tag you if I can find it.
But y'all, just to kind of like circle back to what Sherry said earlier, don't let processes and SOPs and all these things like stop you from signing the client or making money or any of the things. It took me a while into my business before I even realized what any of that meant or that I needed it. Like, and I was able to leave my job and without concrete stuff. Like a lot of people, and they're important and stuff, but a lot of people like they let it hold them back when you could be reaching your goals and making money and doing all the things. And we see so much because people are advertising it on Facebook, the shiny object, and like do this and do that, and it's great and everything, but like yeah, don't let it stop you from making money and all the things. So
And I wouldn't even let it stop you from growing, like building an asset. Some of you I've talked to want an asset of a business versus like a job. Neither are better than one. They're just that you go about them a little bit differently. Even in that case, so we have a lot of people who will upgrade to or just start at the unlimited. So like Letty, the plus program with unlimited one-to-ones. And that program is really great because we can tailor your journey. So wherever you're at on your journey in your bookkeeping business, we get to tailor to you. So if you have a question on onboarding, or like Letty asked for my Google Drive layout, I'm always happy to show you guys those things. I don't want to show them on these calls because they are recorded. They are, posted to YouTube, and I don't want to show my client information because I can't blur it real time. But on these trainings we do. So we don't allow recording on those trainings, and then I'll blur them out for the replay for you guys. But we're all for showing you behind the scenes or setting up something that works for you. And maybe my process doesn't work for you because you're using a different software and you want different information. One of the mistakes we see is jumping into a program and then not actually looking at the checklist and the workflows and the templates we have for you, and feeling like, oh, I'm not getting the information because I want to use all of this other software. That's okay. We'll support you in that other software and we'll problem solve with you on how to do that. You certainly do not have to use the same software that we used. Our checklist and things like that can be uploaded or tweaked to various software. So they're pretty well adapted to all of that. So don't feel stuck. If you're like, well, I really want to use, or I'm really in this software, go for it. Go for it. Don't let that hold you back. And be careful in that to feel like you need 5 different people giving you an opinion. That is 100% where we see people get stuck. Well, I want to see what everyone has to say on this topic. The result is you don't make a decision. You don't move forward. And Megan and I just want to emphasize, like, Megan and I, full-time income without any of this.
yeah.
As far as like processes, procedures, like I was a year in before I had any formal like group help or someone else that was growing a bookkeeping business speak into my business. And that did not bring in about any SOPs or policies, processes, procedures, none of that. It might have been year 3 that I really started putting in what you would call policies, procedures, like, but you have one from day one. You're going to do everything just with what you think should be done. Can you hire a team with that? Yeah, because you're going to verbally give them do this, 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 and this. So you can sloppily do it and still reach 6 figures. So, and by sloppily do it, I don't mean issue sloppy work. I mean, can you get to 6 figures without having everything in place? Absolutely. So if that's your goal, just this is your break the chains. Don't feel like you have to like have this perfect checklist, because I've now since then bought courses to help. Like when I started, it was like, okay, I got really hung up on, I need checklists, I need policies, procedures. And then I realized I couldn't execute half of them because they were too much for really what I needed. I'm doing basic bookkeeping. I don't really care about AR, AP, payroll. I kind of do to some extent, but like I didn't need all of this list of every possible scenario, because I'm not going to face every possible scenario. And then it's like a month of having to go through their checklist and like tweak it, change it, and all of those things. And I've just seen one too many bookkeepers, including myself, try to like implement someone's exact system. And we have it. You can take our checklist, you can implement them, but we've made them so that they're more plug and play versus having to like really tweak. I would rather you add to it than have to remove everything. That's like really nitpicky. So like, so we have both, but, and we can help tweak it for you. Yeah. Anyway, what, I know we open up this call every week to questions on any topic related to your bookkeeping business. So if you guys have questions, feel free to let us know. And if you want, don't forget to message us if you want access to the book club starting on Monday. And then there's a special guest next Thursday. So Jennifer Allwood is going to come on to talk about fear and just how that shows up in life and business and all of those things. So, any questions while we're still on? Any SOP questions that you want to ask? Like, is anyone in the middle of creating an SOP or workflow that they're like, well, would you do this or this? You can ask those two. Okay. Well, yeah.
Everybody's quiet today.
Time to like unmute and click and all of those things. So, and I don't see any questions from the Facebook group. But if you guys do have questions, feel free to post in the Facebook group. So it's, oh, go ahead, Abel. Were you gonna unmute and ask a question?
Yes, I was. I just something, I'm brand new to my business. One of the things that I'm struggling with in the standard operating procedures is you have that first consultation. You send them the email saying, give me access to your book so I can take a look at that, provide a quote, and then also, at least this is mine, and then also, if you agree to it, here's the agreement. Once the agreement, then you send an invoice and so they can pay before you do any work. It just seems like a lot of contact before you get to that payment. So that's what I'm struggling with in what I've mentally set up for my operating procedures at the beginning. Any comments on that?
Yeah.
So
communication, but Megan has a process that I think is
similar.
Yeah,
so normally, it's kind of similar to that. So what I normally do is try, like when they first reach out, try to get access to their books. That way, when I'm hopping on the call with them or the next step, whatever, like I already kind of have an idea of what the quote is going to be, kind of what we're looking at. So then you're kind of able to quote on the phone, or the next step is send them the quote. But I usually like sending the quote. I usually just go ahead and send over like, one, I'm not sending an invoice. I usually send the ACH agreement, so then that I can just go ahead and process their payment. But I'll send the quote instead of just sending the quote. I'm sending my engagement letter that has all the information. This is what your quote is. Here's your ACH agreement. So that way they have everything. If they're ready to move forward, they just go ahead and sign that paperwork. We just go ahead and get started. So that way there's not the back and forth, because a lot of them, like, they're ready to go. It's good. If they have questions, and they'll come back, and there might be some like, hey, we need to adjust.
Is your first consult, is that a phone call, a video call? Is that just email?
Great question. For the record, I've only had two, and they have been phone calls. After the second one, I've determined that I want to give them the option to do a Zoom call or over the phone, because some people are shy and don't want to get on camera. So that's my thought process behind that.
Yeah, I think either is fine. I don't think you have to do Zoom calls at all if you didn't.
I don't do them at all. I've never done them.
But I understand, like, you get to see their facial reactions.
Right.
And for me, that's helpful. So I now do more Zoom calls. I wish I had kept doing phone calls, but
Okay.
whatever works for you is fine there. I was just asking because you have a couple of steps here that we combine them. So the first consult, what I like about what Megan does is if she gets them on like as soon as she knows that they're going to say yes, it turns into an onboarding call.
Okay.
Like, I'm going to go ahead and get you the QuickBooks. I'm going to get all of that from you. One thing I have done is, in order to schedule the first consult, I need access to their QuickBooks. That way I can go through it and ask some questions while I'm on the phone. So like so I use Calendly. You don't, we now have Equip 360, and you can streamline it through Equip 362 and replace Calendly. But in my questions, I say, within 24 hours of the call, please grant this email access. And I give them like a tutorial on how to do it. Just on, it's like literally the QuickBooks link, give me QuickBooks access. So that would eliminate that need. So you can kind of get in. And I've reserved like 10 minutes before to get in and see, like, are you caught up? Where are you at? Do I have what I need to quote? Sometimes you'll find out that they don't have QuickBooks online. That's fine. So now you know on the call to ask for bank statements or things like that. So like, how can you combine these steps? I think that's one way. If you know you're going to get QuickBooks Online access, can you ask for it when they schedule that call?
Okay.
If they
My thought process was always to build that trust before I'm asking for access. So maybe that's just a fear of mine that's not even true.
My argument though is, what damage can you really do?
Okay.
Like,
I don't know that I've really had anybody that's given me kickback asking for, honestly. So yeah, I think that's because everybody's usually willing to do it.
That's helpful.
yeah. So for me, it signals to me that they might no-show the call. So if they don't give me QuickBooks access, like, we don't have access to their bank account information with accounting access. Like, we don't have access to anything that would jeopardize their money.
Okay.
Nor would I ever ask for anything
Right.
that would jeopardize their trust. So yeah, I can see, like, hey, I want to earn your trust, but you're not asking for their bank account information.
Okay.
You're not actually taking them to bed, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
So can you combine those two? And then the agreement invoice, I would combine those two. And I would see if you can send them that right away. I know some people, like, you could use Stripe if you wanted to like streamline it. I use a software that it's the engagement letter, the invoice, and it schedules the payment all in one. So I just send the engagement letter, then I'm done. But I like the ACH because then you can just go set up recurring payments on your side if you want to do it that way. And it's the cheapest way to do it.
Yeah.
So I think those like 4 or 5 steps can be turned into 2.
I like it.
For me, I, just so you know, I have so I do the consult, the quote. I try to give them the quote on the call, then send it over if you're ready to go. Then I do personally schedule an onboarding call, because and in that call, I want them to give me bank account access. Like, I want to have everything I need to get going and stay going on that call, because I don't want to talk to clients all the time. So I go ahead and schedule a flat out onboarding call.
Okay.
And you could do that. You could technically get that scheduled on the consult. If they're like, yeah, I'm going to move forward, they could sign and schedule that call on the consult.
Okay.
Ideal, but that might not happen. So then you have 3 steps if you do it that way.
I'll take 3 steps over what I was thinking about doing. So yeah.
Yeah. And then that just keeps you, but if you run into any issues, like, how do I do this? What button, like, let us know and we'll keep you going. We can also, if you do run into issues, if you get halfway there, we can review it if you want to show up to the workshop, and we can make sure you're across the finish line.
Perfect. Thank you.
I love what you're thinking. Like, I get it. That's a lot of steps. Can we streamline it?
Right. Okay.
So,
I appreciate it.
always our mission. 5 steps into 2 or 3. Well, cool, guys. Thank you for that question, Abel. If you guys have more questions like that, feel free to show up to these calls and ask those questions. We want to keep you moving forward. So we will see you next week with our special guest. We'll see you Monday on the book club if you are attending that. And then July 2nd, if you want the hand-holding workflows, processes, procedures, whatever you need to keep going. So you can see behind my behind the scenes, Megan's behind the scenes, whatever you need to answer questions. So
yep.
I'll see you then. Bye, guys.
Bye.